The engine block of my sedan was ticking, cooling down in the gray December air. That sound usually signaled the end of a mundane grocery run: milk, bread, eggs. But today, the silence between the ticks felt heavy, suffocating. I gripped the plastic bags until my knuckles turned white, staring across the asphalt. It wasn't just a car parked in the far corner of the lot. It was a tomb of condensation and secrets. My daughter's car. Fogged-up windows in the middle of the day meant only one thing: desperation. And as I walked toward it, the pavement seemed to stretch out, pulling me into a nightmare I hadn't realized was already destroying my family. It was a Saturday afternoon when my world split in two. I had just walked out of the big box store with my bags. The parking lot was mostly empty. The sun was beating down hard on the asphalt. I was walking toward my car when something stopped me dead. A familiar vehicle. My heart skipped a beat. It was my daughter Sarah's car. Parked way over in this corner, far from the entrance. The windows were fogged up. Someone was inside. I approached slowly, and then I saw it. My daughter, asleep in the driver's seat, her head resting against the cold window. Her hair was a mess, and in the back seat, wrapped in a blanket, was my grandson Sammy, 5 years old, asleep too. I felt the ground shifting beneath my feet. I tapped on the glass, once, twice. Sarah woke up with a start. She looked at me, and in her eyes, I saw something I will never forget: fear. She rolled down the window. She tried to smile, but the smile shattered before she could even form it. "Mom, what are you doing here?" I asked. My voice came out harder than I intended. "Why are you sleeping in the car with Sammy?" She looked down. She bit her lip, and when she looked back at me, tears were already streaming down her cheeks. "Greg and his mother kicked me out of the house you bought. They said I had no right to anything." The world stopped. I repeated her words in my mind, once, twice, as if repeating them could change their meaning. But no, Greg, my son-in-law, the man I bought a house for, the father of my grandson, and Barbara, his mother, that woman who always looked down her nose at me, they had kicked her out, my daughter, from the house I paid for. I felt my blood boiling. I felt like I couldn't breathe, like something inside me was breaking and rebuilding itself at the same time. I opened the car door. "Get out of there," I told her. "Wake Sammy up. You are coming with me. Now." Sarah looked at me with red, swollen eyes. "Mom, I don't want to cause you problems." "They are the ones with the problem," I interrupted her. "Grab your things. We are leaving." She obeyed. She woke Sammy up gently. The boy opened his eyes, confused. He saw me and smiled. "Grandma." I picked him up. I hugged him tight. He smelled like sleep and innocence. "Everything is going to be okay, baby," I whispered in his ear. But in my head, the questions were spinning like a tornado. How long had they been sleeping in that car? Why hadn't Sarah called me sooner? What had happened in that house? And above all, how on earth did Greg and his mother dare to kick my daughter out of a house that wasn't even theirs? As I drove back to my place with Sarah and Sammy in the car, a single certainty shot through me like lightning. This was not going to end like this. My name is Diane Miller. I am 59 years old, and this is the story of how I defended my daughter when her world came crashing down. Sometimes we trust the wrong people too much. Have you ever been disappointed by someone you loved? Tell me your story in the comments. I want to read them. That night, while Sarah was bathing Sammy in my house, I sat in the living room with a cup of coffee in my hands. The steam rose slowly, but I didn't see it. I was staring at the wall. I was looking at the past, because to understand how we got here, I have to go back to when everything seemed perfect, back to when I thought I had done the right thing. 5 years ago, Sarah came to my house beaming. She had that light in her eyes that only new love brings. She introduced me to Greg one Sunday afternoon. He arrived with flowers. He called me Mrs. Miller, with respect. He talked about his plans, his work as an accountant at a mid-sized firm, about how he wanted to build a solid family. I liked him, maybe too much. Sarah was 31 then. She worked as a teacher at an elementary school. She earned enough to live quietly, but not enough to buy a house. I knew that. And when she told me that she and Greg wanted to get married, that they wanted to start a life together, I saw the opportunity to give her something I never had: security. My husband died when Sarah was 15. Cancer. He left us with debt and a mortgaged house that took me 10 years to pay off. I worked double shifts at the hospital where I am a nurse. I missed birthdays, I missed nights, but I paid every single penny of that mortgage, and when the house was finally mine, I swore my daughter would not go through the same thing. So when Sarah got married, I made a decision. I sold a plot of land I had inherited from my father, land on the outskirts of the city that I had held on to for years. I sold it for $250,000, and with that money, I bought a house, a nice house, 3 bedrooms, big backyard, in a quiet subdivision. I put the deed in my name, always in my name, but I gave it to Sarah and Greg so they could live there, so they could start their marriage with a secure roof over their heads. I remember the day I gave them the keys. It was in my kitchen, the 3 of us sitting around the table. I took the keys out of my purse and put them on the table. "This is your home," I told them. "Take care of it." "Take care of each other," Sarah cried. She hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. "Thank you, Mom. Thank you. You don't know what this means to me." Greg stood up too. He gave me a hug. He told me I was the best mother-in-law in the world, that he would never let me down. I believed him. The first few years were good, at least from the outside. Sarah came to visit me every week. She brought Sammy when he was born, a beautiful baby with big eyes and an easy laugh. I would hold him and think, it was worth it. It was all worth it. But there were things I didn't see or didn't want to see, like when Sarah stopped working. Greg asked her to quit her teaching job to take care of Sammy. She told me about it like it was good news. Greg says it's better if I stay home, that he can support the family. I nodded. I didn't say anything. But something in my chest tightened. Or like when Barbara, Greg's mother, started spending more and more time at the house. Sarah mentioned it in passing. "My mother-in-law comes over a lot lately. She says she wants to help with Sammy." I smiled. I said that was nice, that it was good to have support. But inside, a little voice whispered to me, "Watch out." I never liked Barbara, since the wedding. She was a woman of 65, a widow, one of those women who believe no one does things as well as they do. At the wedding, she criticized the food. She criticized the flowers. She even criticized Sarah's dress. "It would have been more elegant with less lace," she told Greg. Loud enough for me to hear. Sarah let it slide. I did too. Mistake. Because over time, Barbara didn't just visit the house. She stayed. Whole days. Weeks. And Greg never told her no. Sarah started to change. She stopped visiting me as often. When she did come, she looked tired, thinner. She said everything was fine, but her eyes said something else. I asked her, "How are things with Greg?" "Fine, Mom, fine." "And with your mother-in-law?" "Oh, you know. She is intense, but we get along." Lies. Lies that I let slide because I wanted to believe my daughter was happy, because I had invested so much in that family that I didn't want to accept that something was wrong. A year ago, in December of 2024, was the last Christmas we all spent together. Sarah, Greg, Sammy, Barbara, and me. I had dinner at their house. My house. Barbara cooked, not Sarah. Barbara. And during the entire dinner, Barbara talked and talked and talked about how to raise children, about how to run a household, about how women in the old days actually knew how to do things. Sarah ate in silence. Greg nodded at everything his mother said. I watched, and I felt that weight in my chest grow and grow. When I left that night, I hugged Sarah at the door. "Are you okay, honey?" She smiled, that smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Yes, Mom, I am okay." I should have insisted. I should have asked more. I should have taken her with me that very night. But I didn't. And now, sitting in my living room, with my daughter and grandson sleeping in the guest room, I understood that all those little moments I ignored had built this nightmare. The keys to that house were still in my purse. I took them out. I looked at them under the lamplight. Keys to a house I paid for, to a house that was mine, to a house from which they kicked my daughter out as if she were a stranger. I squeezed the keys in my fist. Tomorrow I would call a lawyer. But first, I needed Sarah to tell me everything, every detail, every humiliation, every word those two said to her. Because if I had learned anything in my 59 years of life, it was this: the truth always comes to light, and when it comes out, it burns. While I tell you all of this, I wonder where you are listening from. Write the name of your city in the comments. The next morning, I woke up to the smell of fresh coffee. I got up slowly. My bones creaked like always. 59 years don't pass in vain. I went downstairs and found Sarah in the kitchen. She was making scrambled eggs. Sammy was playing on the living room floor with some old toy cars I kept for when he visited. "Good morning, Mom," she said without looking at me. "Good morning, honey." We sat down to breakfast. Sammy ate with an appetite. Sarah barely touched a bite. I wasn't hungry either, but I knew we had to talk. When Sammy finished, I sent him to watch cartoons in my bedroom. I closed the door. I sat across from Sarah at the kitchen table. "Tell me everything," I said. "From the beginning." She looked down. She rubbed her hands together. She took a deep breath. "I don't know where to start." "Start with when things began to change." Sarah nodded. And then she spoke. She told me that for the first 2 years of marriage, everything had been good. Greg was attentive. He worked hard. He came home and played with Sammy. He kissed her before bed. He told her he loved her. But when Sammy turned 2, something changed. Greg started coming home late. He said there was a lot of work at the office, that he had important projects. Sarah believed him. Why wouldn't she believe him? But along with the late nights came other things. Barbara started visiting them more often. At first they were short visits, an hour, 2 hours. She drank coffee, played with Sammy, left. Then she started staying for lunch, then for dinner. Then she started giving her opinion on how Sarah cooked. "The soup is very salty, Sarah." "Greg has high blood pressure. You have to watch that." "That sauce isn't made like that." "I am going to teach you how I make it." "Why do you give Sammy so many sweets? Children should eat fruit, not chocolate." Sarah endured it. She smiled. She said yes, thanks for the advice. But inside something was breaking, and Greg didn't defend her. Never. When Sarah complained, he told her, "She's my mother. She just wants to help. Don't pay attention to her if you don't like it. You know how she is. Why do you always have to exaggerate everything?" So Sarah stopped complaining. 2 years ago, in March of 2023, Barbara arrived with 2 suitcases. "I am going to stay for a few days," she announced. "My house is being remodeled." Greg said yes without consulting Sarah. Those few days turned into 2 weeks, then a month, then 3 months. Barbara took control of the kitchen. She cooked every day. She criticized everything Sarah did. She told her how to fold clothes, how to clean the floors, how to bathe Sammy. "That is not how you clean a bathroom, Sarah. Look, I'll teach you. You can't let Sammy watch television for so long. When I was raising Greg, you are buying that brand of detergent again? It's more expensive and cleans the same." Sarah told me everything while tears ran down her cheeks. "I tried to talk to Greg, Mom. I told him that his mother had been in the house for months, that we needed our space, that I wanted to cook for my family without someone judging me all the time." "And what did he say?" I asked her. "That I was selfish, that his mother was alone, that she was helping us with Sammy so I could rest, that I should be grateful." I felt rage rising in my throat. "Grateful?" "Yes, Mom, grateful." After 6 months, Barbara finally went back to her house. Sarah breathed a sigh of relief. She thought things would go back to normal. They didn't return, because even though Barbara didn't live there anymore, she still arrived every day, early, sometimes before Greg went to work, and she stayed until night. And Greg had changed. He wasn't the attentive man from before. He arrived from work and locked himself in his study. He barely spoke to Sarah. When she asked him how his day was, he answered with single words. "Fine. Tired. Later." "And when you called him out on it?" I asked. "He told me I was very demanding, that he worked all day to support the house, that I didn't understand the pressure he felt. Why couldn't I leave him in peace?" Sarah paused, wiped her tears with the back of her hand. "I started to feel invisible, Mom, like I didn't exist, like I was only there to cook, clean, and take care of Sammy. And even then, everything I did was wrong." I took her hands. They were cold. "Why didn't you tell me anything before?" "Because I was ashamed," she whispered. "Because you had done so much for me. You gave me a house. You thought Greg was a good man. And I didn't want to disappoint you." My heart squeezed. "Sarah, you have never disappointed me. Never." She cried harder. I hugged her. And while I hugged her, an image came to my mind. That Christmas last year, December 2024, Barbara cooking in my house's kitchen as if it were hers, Greg ignoring Sarah all night. Sarah quiet, always quiet. The signs had been there, all of them. And I didn't see them, or I didn't want to see them. "Keep telling me," I said. When everything got worse, Sarah pulled away from me. She took a deep breath. 6 months ago, in June of this year, June 2025, Barbara arrived again with her suitcases. This time she said she had broken up with her boyfriend and needed to be with her son. Greg welcomed her with open arms. "It will only be a few weeks, Sarah. Don't be insensitive." But Sarah already knew how that story ended. Barbara didn't leave in a few weeks. She stayed, and this time, everything was worse. Barbara started telling Sarah what clothes to wear, how long her skirt should be, how tight her blouse was. "Married women shouldn't dress like that, Sarah. What will people think?" She criticized her makeup, her hair, her tone of voice. "Don't speak so loud. You sound uneducated. Don't laugh like that. Decent ladies don't laugh with their mouths open." And Greg never said anything. Until one day, in August, Sarah exploded. Barbara was in the kitchen. Sarah wanted to cook. Barbara told her no, that she had already prepared the food. Sarah replied that this was her house and she cooked when she wanted. Barbara stared at her. "Your house. This house belongs to my son. I live here too, and while I am here, things are done the way I say." Sarah felt the world crashing down on her. "My mother gave me this house. It is in her name." "It's not yours. It's not Greg's. It is mine." Barbara smiled, a cold smile Sarah had never seen before. "Oh, really? Well, talk to Greg. Ask him who has the papers. Ask him who has control here." Sarah looked for Greg. He was in the living room watching television. "What did your mother mean that you have the papers?" Greg didn't even look at her. "That your mom never changed the property title. The house is still in her name, not yours." "So technically you don't even live in your own house. You live in your mom's house." Sarah felt the floor open up beneath her feet. "And what does that have to do with anything? My mom gave it to me." "But not legally," Greg replied coldly. "There is no paper that says this house is yours." Since that day, everything changed. Barbara treated her like an intruder. She gave her orders. She corrected her in front of Sammy. She told her she didn't know how to do anything right. And Greg ignored her completely. He stopped talking to her. He stopped touching her. He stopped seeing her. It was as if Sarah no longer existed, and when she tried to complain, Greg told her, "If you don't like it, leave." Those words echoed in my head like a scream. If you don't like it, leave. As if it were that easy. As if Sarah didn't have a son. As if it weren't the house I bought for her. I looked at my daughter, her swollen eyes, her gaunt face, her shrunken body, and I understood something I should have understood a long time ago. My daughter hadn't been living in a home. She had been surviving in a prison. I still wonder if I did the right thing by buying them that house. And you? What would you have done in my place? After hearing everything Sarah told me that morning, something inside me broke and hardened at the same time. But I couldn't let myself be carried away by rage. I needed to understand more. I needed to know how my daughter had ended up sleeping in a car with her son. "Tell me what happened after that fight in August," I said. Sarah poured herself more coffee. Her hands were trembling. After that, everything became unbearable. She told me that since that day when Greg told her the house wasn't legally hers, something changed in that family's dynamic. Barbara didn't hide it anymore. She treated her like a servant. She gave her orders all day. "Sarah, wash these dishes. Sarah, iron these shirts for Greg. Sarah, Sammy is crying. Go quiet him down." And if Sarah complained, Barbara answered with that cold smile she knew so well. "If you don't like it, you know where the door is." Greg backed his mother in everything. When Sarah tried to talk to him, when she tried to ask him to set boundaries, he ignored her. Literally. He turned his back on her and kept looking at his phone. One night in September, 3 months ago, Sarah tried to approach him in the bedroom. She needed to talk. She needed him to see her. "Greg, please. This can't go on like this. Your mother treats me horribly. I feel humiliated in my own home." He didn't even turn to look at her. "I already told you, it's not your house. It is your mother's house, and if she wanted, she could kick us all out tomorrow." Sarah felt as if she had been slapped. "What are you talking about? My mom would never do that." "Are you sure?" Greg finally looked at her. "Your mom has control of everything. She decides who lives here and who doesn't. We have no legal right over this property, but she gave it to me." "A gift is worth nothing without papers, Sarah. Don't you realize? We are living off your mother's charity." Those words poisoned something in Sarah's heart, because not only were they cruel, they were calculated. Greg was planting a seed of doubt, of guilt, and it worked. Sarah started to feel guilty. Guilty for having accepted that house, guilty for not asking me to put it in her name, guilty for being a burden. And when you feel guilty, you endure more than you should endure. So she kept enduring. Barbara started controlling the household money. Greg gave her the cash for grocery shopping, for gas, for Sammy's expenses. Sarah had to ask her mother-in-law for permission to buy anything. "You need shampoo? Again? We just bought some 2 weeks ago." "You want to take Sammy out for burgers?" "No, that is a waste of money." "You want to buy yourself shoes? What for, if you don't go anywhere?" It was true. Sarah didn't go anywhere anymore. She stopped visiting me frequently. When I called to ask how she was, she always told me the same thing. "Everything is fine, Mom. Just busy." I believed her, or I wanted to believe her. The few times she came to my house, I saw her thinner, quieter. But when I asked her if everything was okay, she smiled and told me yes. Now I understand that she was ashamed, that she didn't want to worry me, that she thought she could fix everything alone. In October, 2 months ago, something happened that finally broke her. Greg came home from work earlier than usual. Sarah was in the kitchen making dinner. Sammy was in his room playing. Barbara had gone to the store. Greg walked into the kitchen. He poured himself water. He looked at Sarah. "I need to talk to you." Sarah stopped chopping vegetables. She felt a chill. "What's wrong?" "I think we should get a divorce." The knife fell to the floor. Sarah looked at him without understanding. "What?" "This isn't working, Sarah. You aren't happy. I am not happy. My mother isn't happy. Why go on like this?" The words came out of his mouth with such coldness that Sarah felt she was talking to a stranger. "Your mother isn't happy? And what about me? What about Sammy?" "Sammy will be fine. Kids adapt." "You can't be serious." "I am very serious. I have been thinking about this for months. This relationship has no future." Sarah felt the world crumbling. She tried to get close to him. She tried to touch him. "Greg, we can go to therapy. We can fix this, please." He took a step back, as if contact with her disgusted him. "There is nothing to fix. I already made my decision." "When? When did you make that decision?" "That doesn't matter." "Of course it matters. We are a family." Greg looked at her with contempt. "You and I are nothing. We were never anything. This was a mistake from the beginning." Those words hung in the air like poisonous smoke. Sarah froze. She couldn't breathe. She couldn't think. Greg left the kitchen. He left her there, alone, broken. That night, Sarah didn't sleep. She sat in the living room, looking at the walls of that house she once believed was hers, that she once believed was her home. She thought about calling me. She dialed my number 3 times, but always hung up before I answered. What was she going to tell me? "Mom, you were right. Greg isn't who I thought. I have been living a lie for 5 years." The shame was stronger than the pain. The next day, Greg didn't mention the divorce again. He acted as if that conversation never happened. He greeted Sarah in the morning. He asked what was for breakfast. He played with Sammy before going to work. Sarah didn't understand anything. Had that conversation been real, or had she dreamed it? But no, it had been real, because from that day on, Greg stopped touching her completely. They slept in the same bed, but he stayed as far away from her as possible. as if Sarah were contagious. Barbara noticed the change, and she took advantage of it. She started saying things to Sarah, things that seemed like advice but were daggers wrapped in soft words. Men need space, Sarah. Don't smother them. Greg works a lot. You should be more understanding. Wives who don't take care of their husbands lose them. And Sarah, broken as she was, started to believe it. She started to think she was the problem, that if she cooked better, if she looked better, if she talked less, if she existed less, maybe Greg would love her again. So she submitted. She became invisible. She cooked what Barbara ordered. She wore what Barbara approved. She spoke only when asked something. And even so, it wasn't enough, because Greg and Barbara didn't want a wife and a daughter-in-law. They wanted a shadow, and when that shadow no longer served them, they wanted it to disappear. In November, a month ago, Sarah finally came to visit me. She arrived on a Thursday afternoon. She brought Sammy. The boy ran to hug me. Sarah stayed at the door. I saw her, and I knew something was terribly wrong. She had lost a lot of weight. She had deep, dark circles. Her hair had lost its shine. Her clothes were too big. "Sarah, what is happening to you?" "Nothing, Mom. I have just been tired." "Tired of what? You don't work anymore. What is making you so tired?" She looked down. "It's just life, you know." No, I didn't know. And I should have insisted more. I should have grabbed her by the shoulders and forced her to tell me the truth. But I was afraid. Afraid to hear something I couldn't undo. Afraid to confirm that my decision to buy them that house had been the worst mistake of my life. So I let her go. I let her take Sammy back to that house, to that prison. And for 3 weeks I didn't hear from her. She didn't answer my calls. She didn't reply to my texts. Until that Saturday, that damn Saturday in the big box store parking lot, when I found her sleeping in the car with my grandson, when everything exploded. Now, sitting across from her in my kitchen, watching her cry while she told me every detail of her nightmare, I understood something. Sarah hadn't been denying reality out of cowardice. She had denied it out of survival, because accepting that your marriage is a lie, that your husband despises you, that his mother humiliates you, that the house where you live isn't yours, accepting all that at once can break you. And Sarah was breaking, but I wasn't going to let her break any further. I took her hands in mine. "Listen to me well, Sarah. None of this is your fault. Do you hear me? None of it." "But Mom, I should have." "No, you shouldn't have done anything. Greg and his mother are the ones who did this. They manipulated you, isolated you, made you feel like you were worth nothing. But they made a mistake." Sarah looked at me with those red, tired eyes. "And now, what do I do?" I smiled, but it wasn't a sweet smile. It was a war smile. "Now you are going to rest. You are going to recover, and I am going to do what I should have done from the beginning." "What?" "Protect you." That afternoon, while Sarah took a nap and Sammy watched his cartoons, I took out my phone. I looked for the contact of Robert Stone, a lawyer I knew from the hospital, a good man, honest, ruthless when necessary. I texted him, "Robert, I need your help. It is urgent." He replied in 5 minutes. "What do you need, Diane?" "I need to evict 2 people from a house that is mine, and I need it to be legal. Fast and definitive. Come to my office on Monday. Bring all the property papers. I'll be there." I put the phone away. I looked out the window. The sky was gray. It smelled like rain. And for the first time in weeks, I felt something like hope, because storms cleanse, and this storm was just beginning. Monday arrived faster than I expected. I woke up early. I made breakfast for Sarah and Sammy. My daughter was still in that kind of lethargy, as if her body was present, but her soul was lost somewhere dark. "I'm going out for a few hours today," I told her while pouring her coffee. "I'm going to take care of some things." She nodded without asking. Sammy was eating his pancakes with syrup. He had chocolate on his face. I cleaned him with a napkin. "Where are you going, Grandma?" He asked me with that little voice that melted my heart. "To solve some important matters, baby." "But I'll be back soon." Before leaving, I searched my filing cabinet for all the house papers. The original deed, payment receipts, proof of utilities I had been paying all these years, electricity, water, gas, property taxes. Everything was in my name. It had always been in my name. I put everything in a folder and left for Robert Stone's office. His office was downtown, an old building, but well kept. 3rd floor. I walked up the stairs. My knees protested, but I ignored them. I had more important things to think about. Robert welcomed me with a hug. We had known each other for years. We had worked together on several hospital cases, medical malpractice, workplace accidents. He was a serious lawyer, one of those who don't promise what they can't deliver. "Diane, sit down. Tell me what's going on." I sat across from his desk. I took a deep breath and told him everything. I told him about the house I bought for Sarah, how I gave it to her to live there with Greg, how Barbara had installed herself there as if it were her property, how they had humiliated my daughter day after day, how they kicked her out on the street. Robert listened without interrupting. He took notes. When I finished, he took off his glasses and rubbed his eyes. "Let me see the papers." I handed him the folder. He reviewed every document carefully, the deed, the receipts, the proofs. After 10 minutes, he looked up. "This is very clear, Diane. The house is in your name. You are the only legal owner. Greg and his mother have no right over that property. So, can I kick them out?" "Yes, but there is a process. You can't simply arrive and throw them out on the street. You need to start an eviction lawsuit. It can take between 3 and 6 months. I felt my stomach drop. 6 months? Robert, my daughter is destroyed. She can't wait 6 months. I understand your urgency, but the law is clear. They have lived there for 5 years. Even if they don't have any legal right, they have what is called tenant rights or residency. We have to follow the process." I leaned back in the chair. I closed my eyes. 6 months. Half a year. Meanwhile, Greg and Barbara continued living in my house as if nothing happened. "Is there any way to speed this up?" Robert thought for a moment. "We can request a protection order for Sarah if there is proof of violence or threat." "There is no physical violence. It was all psychological." "That makes things more complicated. Psychological violence is harder to prove." "And what about Sammy? Does child abandonment not count?" Robert's eyes lit up. "That does. If Greg kicked his wife and son out on the street, that is abandonment of the home, abandonment of family obligations. We can use that." "For what?" "To request provisional child support and to strengthen the eviction case. If we show that Greg abandoned his responsibilities as a father, the judge may be more receptive to the eviction order." Some hope returned to my chest. "What do you need from me?" "I need Sarah to come and declare everything that happened. I need dates, witnesses if there are any, text messages, emails, anything that proves the mistreatment and abandonment. I'll get them for you. And I need you to authorize me to act on your behalf as owner of the property." "Authorized. Do what you have to do." Robert smiled. It was the smile of a lawyer about to go to war. "We are going to get your house back, Diane, and we are going to make Greg pay child support for that boy. I promise you." I left his office feeling stronger, more focused, but also aware that this was just beginning. On the way home, I stopped by the store, bought food for the week. While pushing the cart through the aisles, my mind wouldn't stop working. I needed Sarah to give me more information. I needed proof, messages, something concrete. When I got home, Sarah was in the living room with Sammy. The boy was drawing in a notebook. Sarah was looking out the window with that lost look that was already breaking my heart. I put away the groceries, made tea, sat next to her. "Honey, I need to ask you something important." She turned to look at me. "What is it?" "Do you have messages from Greg? Emails? Anything where he said hurtful things or where he threatened to kick you out?" Sarah looked down. "I have some messages. Can I see them?" She hesitated, but finally took out her phone. She unlocked it. She searched through her conversations with Greg. She handed me the phone. I started reading. What I saw made my blood boil. There were messages from September, October, November, all with the same cold, dismissive, cruel tone. "Don't look for me when you go out. I'm going to be late. Tell my mom to heat up my food. Yours tastes terrible. Why are you always crying? You look like a little girl. Sammy is unbearable. Control him. I can't stand seeing you anymore. You disgust me." That last message was from December 1st. Less than a month ago. I kept scrolling down the conversation. There was another message from December 14th. 2 weeks ago, pack your things and leave. I don't want you here anymore, Sarah had replied. Where am I going to go with Sammy? The answer from Greg was crushing. Not my problem. Go with your mom. After all, she has always supported you. And then another message. The house is mine. My mom and I decided we don't want you here anymore. If you don't leave the easy way, we will get you out the hard way. I felt my hands shaking. I looked up. I looked at Sarah. Why didn't you show me this before? She had tears in her eyes. Because I was ashamed, Mom. Ashamed that my marriage was a failure. Ashamed to admit that the man I chose turned out to be a monster. I hugged her. Tight. You have nothing to be ashamed of. He is the one who should be ashamed. Him and his mother. I took a picture of every message. I sent them to my phone. This was the evidence Robert needed. Sarah, these messages are gold. With this, we can prove abandonment. We can prove that Greg kicked you out of the house without any legal reason. And what good does that do? It serves to get him out of my house, so he pays child support for Sammy. So he faces the consequences of what he did. For the first time in days, I saw something resembling hope in my daughter's eyes. Do you really think we can win? I don't think so. I know so. That night, after putting Sammy to bed, Sarah and I stayed in the living room talking. I needed to know more. I needed to understand how we had gotten here. Tell me about Barbara, I said. Was she always like this? Sarah thought for a moment. In the beginning, no. In the beginning, she was tolerable. Yes, she was critical and bossy, but I thought it was just her way of being, that over time she would improve. And when did it change? When I got pregnant with Sammy. That surprised me. Why? Because Barbara wanted to control everything. She wanted to decide how we were going to raise Sammy, what name we were going to give him, what hospital he was going to be born in. Everything. And Greg? Greg was always on his mother's side, always. I thought that when Sammy was born, things would change, that he would mature, that he would put his family first. But it didn't happen. It didn't happen. On the contrary, it got worse every time. Barbara started telling Greg that I didn't know how to take care of the baby, that I was spoiling him, that I was going to ruin him. And he believed her? He always believed her. I could spend all day taking care of Sammy, bathing him, feeding him, playing with him. But if Barbara said I did something wrong, Greg scolded me. My heart broke with every word. Why didn't you tell me any of this when it was happening? Sarah stayed quiet for a long time. When she spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. Because you had done so much for me, Mom. You gave me a house. You gave me stability. I felt I had no right to complain, that I should be grateful, that if my marriage didn't work, it was my fault, not Greg's. Sarah, and also because I was afraid that if I got divorced, I was going to lose the house, I was going to be left with nothing, and Sammy was going to suffer. But the house is mine. You were never going to lose it. Greg convinced me otherwise. He told me that even though the house was in your name, he had rights for having lived there, that if we divorced, a judge was going to give him half, and I believed him. The manipulation had been perfect. Greg and Barbara had built a mental prison for Sarah. They had convinced her she had no options, no rights, that she was less than nothing, and it worked. Until now. You aren't going to believe them anymore, I told her. They aren't going to hurt you anymore. Sarah looked at me with those tired eyes. How can you be so sure? I smiled, because now I know the whole truth, and the truth is the only thing we need to win this war. The next day, I took Sarah to Robert's office. She declared everything, every humiliation, every insult, every threat. Robert recorded her testimony, took more notes, reviewed the messages. When we finished, Robert looked at me. We have a solid case, very solid. I am going to file the eviction lawsuit this week, and I am going to request provisional child support. With luck, in a month, we have the first hearing. And in the meantime? In the meantime, Sarah and Sammy stay with you. They have no contact with Greg, unless it is through lawyers, and you do not go to that house for any reason. Understood? I nodded. Understood. But there was something else I needed to do, something Robert didn't need to know yet. That afternoon, while Sarah took a nap and Sammy played in the yard, I searched my contacts. I found the number for Patty, a friend who worked in human resources at the company where Greg worked. I texted her, "Patty, I need a favor. Can you find out if Greg is still working at your company?" She replied quickly, "Sure, Diane. Give me a few minutes." 15 minutes later, her answer arrived. "He is still working here. Actually, he just asked for a raise. Why do you ask?" I didn't answer her, but now I had another piece of the puzzle. Greg was working, earning well, and yet he had kicked his wife and son out on the street. It wasn't about money, it was about control, about cruelty, and that gave me every reason in the world to destroy him. 2 weeks passed since Robert filed the lawsuit. 2 weeks in which my house became a refuge for Sarah and Sammy. 2 weeks in which I saw my daughter start to breathe again. Little by little, color returned to her cheeks. She started to smile when Sammy did some mischief. She got up earlier. She cooked with me in the mornings. She talked more. One afternoon, while we were making lasagna for dinner, she told me something that broke my heart. "Mom, it's been so long since I felt safe." I looked at her. She had flour on her nose. She looked younger, lighter. "How long?" "Years. Literally years." I stopped kneading the dough. I hugged her. "Well, now you are safe, and you are going to stay safe." But the peace wasn't going to last long. On December 22nd, a Sunday afternoon, my phone rang. It was Robert. "Diane, I have news." "Good or bad?" "Depends on how you see it. Greg was served with the lawsuit last Friday and he just responded." My heart skipped a beat. "What does it say?" "He says he didn't abandon anyone. That Sarah left of her own free will. That he never kicked her out of the house." I felt rage rising in my throat. "That is a lie. I know. We have the messages that prove it." "But Greg hired a lawyer, and that lawyer is saying the messages were taken out of context, that there was a marital argument, but that there was never abandonment." "And the judge believes him?" "The judge hasn't decided anything yet. That's why we have a hearing scheduled for January 8th. January. In less than 3 weeks. What do we need to do? We need more evidence. We need witnesses. Is there anyone who saw how Barbara treated Sarah? Neighbors? Friends? Family?" I thought for a moment. There was a neighbor, Linda. She lived next door. She and Sarah were friends. Perfect. I need Sarah to talk to her, ask her to testify. And if she doesn't want to, then we look for someone else. But we need someone. Diane, the messages help a lot, but a live witness makes the difference. I hung up the phone. I went to look for Sarah. She was in the garden with Sammy. The boy was chasing butterflies. Sarah watched him with that tenderness only mothers have. "Sarah, I need to talk to you." She got up. We went inside the house. I told her what Robert had told me. Her face went pale. "Linda, do you think she will testify?" Sarah bit her lip. "I don't know. I haven't talked to her in months." "Why?" "Because Greg and Barbara forbade me to talk to her." "Why?" Sarah took a deep breath, and then she told me something I didn't know. 6 months ago, in June, when Barbara arrived the second time to stay, Linda came to visit Sarah. It was a hot afternoon. Barbara was in the living room watching television. Linda arrived with muffins. She wanted to invite Sarah for coffee at her house. Barbara met her at the door. She didn't let her pass. "Sarah is busy," she told her. Linda was surprised. She knew Barbara. She knew she was difficult, but she had never seen her so hostile. "I'm only here for a little bit." "I already told you she is busy." "Another day." And she slammed the door in her face. Sarah saw everything from the kitchen. She wanted to go out. She wanted to apologize to her friend. But Barbara stopped her. "You don't need friends distracting you from your responsibilities. Linda has been my friend for years. Friends are a waste of time. You have to focus on your family." Sarah tried to call Linda afterward, explain, apologize, but Linda didn't answer. After that, Barbara watched everything. If Sarah went out to the patio and Linda was on hers, Barbara called her. She invented that she needed help with something. anything to interrupt the conversation. And Greg backed his mother. My mom is right. That neighbor is a gossip. We don't want her talking about our private life. So Sarah stopped talking to Linda. She stopped talking to everyone. She was left completely alone. And do you think Linda still lives there? I asked her. Yes. She wasn't going to move. This time, we have to talk to her. Sarah hesitated. Mom, months have passed. She must be angry with me. She must think I ignored her on purpose. Well, we have to explain to her that it wasn't like that they had you prisoner, that they isolated you from everyone. I don't know if she wants to listen to me. I took her hands. There is only one way to know. The next day, Monday, December 23rd, we went to the house. My house. The house where Greg and Barbara were still living as if nothing happened. I told Sarah to stay in the car. I parked in front of Linda's house. My heart was beating fast. I hadn't been back to that street since I found Sarah sleeping in her car. Seeing the house again made my stomach turn. The windows had the curtains closed. The lawn was overgrown. My beautiful house looked sad. I knocked on Linda's door. A woman of about 40 opened. She had short hair and kind eyes. Yes, Linda? Yes, that's me. My name is Diane. I am Sarah's mom. Her expression changed. She got serious. Sarah? I haven't heard from her in months. I know. And that's why I am here. I need to talk to you. Linda hesitated, but finally opened the door. Come in. We went into her living room. I sat in an old but comfortable armchair. Linda sat across from me. Where is Sarah? She asked. She is in the car. She didn't want to come out. She is afraid. Afraid of what? That you are angry with her. Linda sighed. I am not angry. I am confused. One day we were friends, and the next she stopped talking to me. I tried to reach out several times, but she always avoided me. She didn't avoid you. They forbade her to talk to you. Linda frowned. Who? Her mother-in-law. And her husband. I told her everything. Every detail. How Barbara had taken control of the house. How she had isolated Sarah. How they had kicked her out on the street. While I spoke, I saw Linda's expression go from confusion to horror. My God. I knew something was wrong, but I never imagined it was so serious. Did you notice anything? Anything you can testify to? Linda nodded. Many things. I heard screaming. I saw that lady, Barbara, treating Sarah as if she were her servant. Once I saw Sarah crying on the patio. I tried to talk to her, but Barbara came out and took her inside. When was that? In October. About 2 months ago. Would you be willing to declare that in front of a judge? Linda didn't hesitate. Yes. Sarah doesn't deserve what they did to her. She was always a good person, a good neighbor, a good mother. And seeing how they treated her broke my heart, but I didn't know how to help. I felt a huge relief. Thank you, Linda. You don't know how much this means. Can I see Sarah? Of course. We went out of the house. Sarah was still in the car. When she saw Linda, she rolled down the window. Linda approached, looked her in the eyes. I am so sorry, Sarah. I should have insisted more. I should have helped you. Sarah started to cry. It's not your fault. It's mine. I should have spoken up. I should have asked for help. No, it's not your fault. They manipulated you, isolated you, and I was foolish to believe that you had simply forgotten me. They hugged through the car window. 2 friends that abuse had separated, 2 women who were now finding each other again. And while I watched them hug, something caught my attention. The door to my house opened, and Barbara came out. She saw us, me, Sarah, Linda. Her face transformed. It turned red with rage. What are you doing here? She yelled from her lawn. I didn't answer. I just looked at her. Barbara walked toward us. Every step was a threat. This is private property. You have no right to be here. I smiled. It was a cold smile. This property is mine, Barbara. I paid every penny for this house. And you have no right to be here. Her face twisted in rage. Liar! This house belongs to my son. Your son doesn't have a single paper to prove that. I have the deed, all the receipts. And I have an eviction lawsuit with your name and Greg's on it." Barbara paled. "What? You were already served. Either your lawyer didn't tell you or you played dumb, but in 3 weeks there is a hearing, and when that hearing is over, you are going to leave my house, with or without your things. That depends on you." "You can't do that." "Of course I can. And I will." Greg came out of the house. He was in sweatpants, disheveled. He looked thinner than the last time I saw him. "What is going on here?" Barbara pointed at us. "These crazy women say they are going to kick us out of the house." Greg looked at me. Then he looked at Sarah. There was something in his look. Guilt? Fear? I don't know. "Mrs. Miller, we can settle this in a civilized way." "There is nothing to settle, Greg. You kicked my daughter and my grandson out on the street. You let them sleep in a car. And you thought there wouldn't be consequences." "I never kicked them out." "I have your messages, every single one. Pack your things and leave. Does that sound familiar?" Greg fell silent. "On January 8th, we see you in court," I continued. "Bring a good lawyer, because you are going to need him." I got into the car. Sarah was still shaking. Linda waved goodbye to us. I started the car, and as I drove away, I saw in the rearview mirror how Barbara and Greg stood in the middle of the street, immobile, defeated. And for the first time in weeks, I felt that things were starting to balance out. Justice isn't always fast, but when it arrives with force. And they were about to learn that. Christmas arrived 2 days later, December 25th, a date that normally filled my house with joy, but this year it had a bittersweet taste. Sarah and I decorated the tree with Sammy. The boy hung ornaments with such enthusiasm that he almost knocked the tree over twice. We laughed. We cooked, we made eggnog, we wrapped gifts. But there was a shadow over everything. A shadow in the shape of a court hearing. A shadow that was getting closer every day. Christmas night, after Sammy fell asleep, waiting for Santa Claus, Sarah and I sat in the living room with a glass of eggnog each. "What are you thinking about?" I asked her. She was looking at the tree lights, those little lights blinking like tiny stars. "About everything I lost, Mom." "What do you mean?" "I lost 5 years of my life with a man who never loved me. I lost my job. I lost my friends. I lost my dignity." I took her hand. "You didn't lose your dignity. They took it away. But you are getting it back." "You think?" "I know." She smiled, a sad smile. "Sometimes I wonder if any of what I lived was real. If Greg ever loved me, even a little bit." "I don't know, honey. Only he knows. But what I do know is that true love doesn't humiliate, doesn't isolate, doesn't destroy. And what he did to you was not love." Sarah nodded. She drank her eggnog. She stayed quiet for a long time. "You know what is the saddest thing?" she said finally. "What?" "That for a long time I thought I deserved that treatment. I thought that if I tried harder, if I was a better wife, better daughter-in-law, better mother, things would change. But they didn't change. No, because the problem was never you. The problem was always him and his mother." We toasted with our glasses, to truth, to freedom, to new beginnings. The following days passed in a kind of tense calm. Sarah started looking stronger. She started talking about looking for work again, about going back to teaching, about rebuilding her life. Sammy played in the garden every day. He stopped asking for his dad. At first he did. "Where is my dad?" Sarah explained that Dad was busy, that he would see him soon. White lies to protect the heart of a 5-year-old boy. But over time, Sammy stopped asking. And that broke my heart more than anything else. A boy who forgets his father because his father decided to forget him first. On December 30th, a week before the hearing, Robert called us. "I need you to come to the office. There is something you have to see." We went that same afternoon. Sammy stayed with my neighbor. Sarah and I walked into Robert's office with knots in our stomachs. Robert had a laptop open on his desk. He motioned for us to sit. "What's wrong?" I asked. "Greg's lawyer just sent his formal response, and there are some interesting things." "Like what?" Robert turned the laptop toward us. He started reading the document. Greg's lawyer argued that Sarah had voluntarily abandoned the marital home, that she had taken the child without consulting the father, that she was trying to alienate Sammy from Greg. Sarah went pale. That is a lie. It's all a lie. I know, said Robert. But there is more, he kept reading. The lawyer also argued that Barbara lived in the house because she took care of her grandson, that Sarah was a negligent mother, that she didn't know how to take care of the child appropriately, that Barbara had to intervene multiple times to protect Sammy. I felt my blood boiling. Negligent? My daughter? The woman who devoted herself to that boy since he was born? It is a strategy, Diane. They are trying to flip the narrative. To make Sarah look like the bad guy, and the judge will believe them? Not if we have evidence proving otherwise, and we do. Greg's messages, Linda's testimony, Sarah's testimony. All that weighs more than a lawyer's lies. And what about the eviction? Sarah asked with a trembling voice. The lawyer is arguing that Greg has right of possession for having lived there 5 years, that although the house is in Diane's name, he has contributed to the maintenance of the property. Contributed? I almost shouted. I have paid everything. Every electric bill, water, gas, property tax, everything. Robert nodded. I know, and that is exactly what we are going to prove. I brought all the receipts you gave me. They are all in your name. There isn't a single payment made by Greg. So why does his lawyer lie like that? Because it's his job. His job is to defend his client. Even if his client is guilty, even if the lies are obvious, that is the nature of the legal system. Sarah covered her face with her hands. I can't believe we came to this, to fighting in a court, to having lawyers, to... She broke down. She started crying. I hugged her. Robert gave us a moment. When Sarah calmed down, Robert continued. There is something else I need to tell you. What? I asked, fearing the answer. Greg is asking for shared custody of Sammy. The world stopped. Sarah lifted her head, her eyes red from crying. What? He is asking that Sammy spend half the time with him and the other half with Sarah. But he kicked him out on the street. He let him sleep in a car. I know. And that is what we are going to argue, that a father who abandons his son does not deserve custody, but we have to be prepared. Greg is going all in. Sarah was shaking. He can't take my son from me. He can't. He is the only thing I have left. He won't take him from you. I told her with all the firmness I could. We won't allow it. Robert nodded. The hearing is in 8 days. In that time, I need Sarah to prepare her statement. I need you to practice what you are going to say, how you are going to answer the judge's questions, and how you are going to answer Greg's lawyer's questions. Are they going to interrogate me? Yes, and it is going to be difficult. They are going to try to make you doubt. They are going to try to make you look bad. They are going to twist your words. I don't know if I can. Yes, you can. I interrupted her. You are stronger than you think. And I am going to be there with you, every second. The following days were intense. Sarah rehearsed her statement over and over. Robert coached her. He asked her hard questions. He prepared her for the worst. I watched her transform. Every day she was firmer, more sure, angrier. And anger is good. Anger gives you strength, gives you clarity. The night before the hearing, Sarah couldn't sleep. I heard her walking around the house at 3 a.m. I went down. I found her in the kitchen, sitting in the dark. Can't sleep? No. I sat next to her. What are you worried about? Everything. What if the judge believes Greg? What if I lose Sammy? What if... You are not going to lose Sammy. That boy is yours. You are his mother. You have been with him every day of his life. You fed him. You bathed him. You took care of him when he was sick. You comforted him when he cried. Greg did none of that, but his lawyer is going to lie. Let him lie all he wants. Truth always wins. Do you really believe that? Yes, with all my heart. Sarah hugged me, tight, like when she was a little girl and had nightmares. Thank you, Mom, for everything. You don't have to thank me. I am your mother. This is what mothers do. They protect their children. Always. The morning of January 8th dawned gray. Heavy clouds covered the sky. It smelled like rain. I dressed in my best suit, black, formal. Sarah wore a simple dress, gray, nothing flashy. Robert had told us to dress conservatively, that the judge needed to see us as serious people, reliable. Sammy stayed with my neighbor again. Sarah said goodbye to him with a long kiss. The boy didn't understand why his mom was so serious. "Mom, are you sad?" "No, my love. I just have to go solve some important things. But I'll be back soon. Will you bring me an ice cream?" Sarah smiled despite everything. "I'll bring you too." We arrived at the courthouse at 9 in the morning. The building was old. Gray walls, hallways that smelled of dampness and old paper, people waiting on wooden benches, lawyers with briefcases, whole families crowded in the doorways of the courtrooms. Robert was waiting for us outside courtroom 4. "Ready?" "No," said Sarah. "No one is ready for this," replied Robert. "But you are prepared. Remember everything we practiced. Answer calmly. Don't let yourself be provoked. And tell the truth. Only the truth." We entered the courtroom, and there they were. Greg, sitting on one of the benches, in a black suit, hair slicked back. He looked nervous. When he saw us enter, he looked down. Next to him, Barbara, dressed in black too, with dark glasses, as if she were in mourning. When she saw us, she threw us a look full of hate. Their lawyer was an older man, gray hair, expensive suit, leather briefcase. He looked confident, arrogant. We sat on the other side, Robert in the middle, Sarah to his right, me to his left. The judge entered. A man of about 60, white hair, glasses, serious expression, but not cruel. "Good morning. We are here for case number—" And so it began, the battle that would define the future of my daughter and grandson. The judge opened the folder in front of him. He reviewed some papers. The silence in that room was so dense I could hear my own heartbeat. "All right," he said finally. "We have 2 matters in this hearing. First, the eviction lawsuit filed by Mrs. Diane Miller against Mr. Greg Reynolds and Mrs. Barbara Reynolds. Second, the request for temporary custody and child support for the minor Sammy Reynolds." He looked at Robert. "Mr. Stone, you represent Mrs. Miller. Proceed." Robert stood up, opened his briefcase, took out a copy of the house deed. "Your Honor, my client, Mrs. Diane Miller, is the sole legal owner of the home located at 342 Oak Street. She acquired said property 5 years ago with her own funds. The deed is in her name, and she has paid all utilities and property taxes since then." Robert put the documents on the judge's bench. "Here are all the proofs. 5 years of electric, water, gas, and tax receipts. All in Mrs. Miller's name, not a single payment made by Mr. Greg Reynolds." Greg's lawyer stood up. "Your Honor, my client has lived in that property for 5 years. He has maintained the house. He has made improvements. He has contributed indirectly." "Contributed indirectly?" Robert interrupted him. "Can your client show any invoice, any receipt, any proof of those alleged improvements?" The lawyer hesitated. "My client did not keep those receipts." "How convenient," said Robert. "Your Honor, the law is clear. The property belongs to whoever has the deeds and has paid for its maintenance. Mr. Reynolds has no legal right over that house." The judge nodded. "I understand. But before making a decision on the eviction, I need to hear the other matter, the custody of the minor and child support. Because if Mr. Reynolds is going to have shared custody, he will need a place to live with the child." My stomach tightened. Everything depended on this. If Greg got shared custody, the judge could give him time to find another house, and that could delay the eviction for months. "Mr. Stone, present your case on custody." Robert stood up again. "Your Honor, my client, Sarah Reynolds, was expelled from her home by her husband, Mr. Greg Reynolds, on December 14th of this year. She was forced to leave with her son without any resources. She was found sleeping in her car in the parking lot of a big box store. This constitutes abandonment of the home and abandonment of parental responsibilities." Greg's lawyer jumped from his seat. "That is false. My client never kicked anyone out. Mrs. Sarah left of her own free will." "Of her own free will?" Robert took out his phone. "Your Honor, I have text messages here sent by Mr. Reynolds to Mrs. Sarah. I ask permission to read them." The judge nodded. Robert read aloud. "December 14th, Mr. Reynolds wrote, 'Pack your things and leave. I don't want you here anymore.' Mrs. Sarah replied, "Where am I going to go with Sammy?" And Mr. Reynolds answered, "Not my problem. Go with your mom. After all, she has always supported you. The house is mine. My mom and I decided we don't want you here anymore. If you don't leave the easy way, we will get you out the hard way." The silence in the room was absolute. I looked at Greg. He had his head down, hands clenched. Barbara watched him with eyes wide open. The judge took off his glasses, cleaned them, put them back on. "Are these messages authentic?" "Yes, Your Honor. I can show you my client's phone with the complete conversation." Robert handed Sarah's phone to the judge. The judge reviewed the messages, one by one. His expression hardened with every line he read. "Mr. Reynolds," he said finally, "did you send these messages?" Greg stood up trembling. Your Honor, we were fighting. I said things I shouldn't have said." "You said things you shouldn't have said?" The judge stared at him. "You ordered your wife to leave the house with your son without giving her any resources. And now you are asking for shared custody?" Greg's lawyer intervened. "Your Honor, my client regrets those messages. It was a moment of strong emotions." "But he loves his son. He wants to be part of his life." "If he loved his son," the judge interrupted him, "would he have let him sleep in a car?" The lawyer stayed quiet. The judge looked at Robert. "Do you have more evidence?" "Yes, Your Honor. I have the testimony of a neighbor who witnessed the psychological abuse Mrs. Sarah suffered from Mr. Reynolds and his mother, Mrs. Barbara." "Call the witness." Linda entered the room. She was nervous. She sat on the stand, swore to tell the truth. Robert asked her questions. Linda answered with a steady voice. She told everything. How she saw Barbara treat Sarah like a servant. How she heard yelling. How once she saw Sarah crying on the patio and Barbara pulled her inside. "When was that?" asked Robert. "In October, 3 months ago." "And what did you think when you saw it?" "I thought something was very wrong. I tried to talk to Sarah several times after that, but she always avoided me. Or rather, they didn't let her talk to me." Greg's lawyer tried to discredit Linda. "Ma'am, you and Mrs. Sarah were friends, correct?" "We were neighbors." "And friends?" "Yes." "Then your testimony is biased. You want to help your friend." "I want to tell the truth," replied Linda firmly. "I saw what I saw. I heard what I heard, and what I saw was a woman being mistreated in her own home." The judge raised his hand. "Enough. Ma'am, you may step down. Thank you for your testimony." Linda left the room. She threw me a look before going. A look that said, "I did it. I hope it helps." The judge took a deep breath. "Anything else, Mr. Stone?" "Yes, Your Honor. I would like my client, Mrs. Sarah Reynolds, to testify." Sarah stood up. She walked toward the stand with her legs shaking. She sat down, swore to tell the truth. Robert asked her simple questions at first. How long was she married? When did the abuse start? What did Barbara do in the house? Sarah answered everything with a clear voice. She told her story, without embellishments, without dramatics, just the truth. She told how Greg changed after Sammy was born, how Barbara took control of the house, how they isolated her from everyone, how they made her feel she was worth nothing. And while she spoke, I saw something in my daughter I hadn't seen in years: dignity. Afterwards, it was Greg's lawyer's turn to cross-examine her, and it was brutal. "Mrs. Sarah, did you work?" "I worked as a teacher, but my husband asked me to quit to take care of our son." "So your husband supported you financially?" "Yes, and we lived in a house my mother gave him, without paying rent." "Without paying utilities. My mother paid the utilities, but you didn't contribute anything." "I took care of my son. I took care of the house. I cooked. I cleaned." "Those are not financial contributions, ma'am. My point is that you depended completely on your husband and your mother." "Yes," answered Sarah, "I depended on them because they convinced me to quit my job, to isolate myself from my friends, to have no independence, and when they didn't need me anymore, they threw me out like trash." The lawyer was speechless for a second. "No more questions," he murmured. Sarah returned to her seat. She was shaking. I took her hand. It was freezing. "You did perfectly," I whispered. The judge closed the folder. "I am going to take a 30-minute recess to review all the evidence. When I return, I will give my decision." We left the room. Sarah crumbled in my arms. "I don't know if I said the right thing." You told the truth. And that is the only thing that matters." Robert was confident. "You did very well, Sarah." The judge saw the messages. He heard Linda. He heard you. Greg has no defense. 30 minutes later, we went back inside. The judge was already seated. He had a serious expression. "I have reviewed all the evidence presented, and I have reached the following conclusions." My heart was beating so fast, I thought everyone could hear it. First, regarding the eviction. Mrs. Diane Miller is the sole legal owner of the home. She has presented overwhelming proof that she has paid for the maintenance of the property for 5 years. Mr. Greg Reynolds and Mrs. Barbara Reynolds have no legal right over said property. Therefore, the eviction is granted. They have 30 days to vacate the home. Sarah squeezed my hand. Second, regarding the custody of the minor Sammy Reynolds. After reviewing the text messages, the neighbor's testimony, and Mrs. Sarah's statement, it is evident that Mr. Greg Reynolds abandoned his parental responsibilities. He kicked his wife and son out on the street without any resources. This behavior is unacceptable. The judge looked at Greg harshly. Therefore, full custody of the minor remains with the mother, Mrs. Sarah Reynolds. Mr. Reynolds will have the right to supervised visits twice a month in a neutral location and must pay child support of $1,200 a month, retroactive to December 14th. Greg stood up. "Your Honor, that isn't fair. That is my son." "Sit down, Mr. Reynolds," said the judge firmly. "If you had thought about your son when you let him sleep in a car, we wouldn't be here. Court is adjourned." The bang of the gavel resonated in the whole room, and just like that, in a single stroke, we won. We won the house, we won custody, we won justice. We left the room. Sarah was crying. But this time they weren't tears of pain. They were tears of relief, of liberation. Robert hugged both of us. "We did it. We did it." Behind us, I heard Barbara's voice yelling at Greg. "It's all your fault. Because of your stupid messages, we lost everything." I didn't turn to look at them. They didn't matter to me. They had already wasted enough of my time, my energy, my life. We got in the car. I drove back home in silence. Sarah was looking out the window. Tears kept falling. "What are you thinking about?" I asked her. "That I won?" she whispered. "But I also lost." "What did you lose?" 5 years of my life, my marriage, my trust, your pain." I interrupted her. "You lost your pain. You lost your fear. You lost the prison you lived in. And yes, you lost 5 years, but you won the rest of your life." She looked at me, smiled despite the tears. "Thank you, Mom, for never giving up, for fighting for me. I will always fight for you, always." When we got home, Sammy ran toward us. "Mom, Grandma, did you bring me ice cream?" Sarah knelt down, hugged her son. She hugged him so tight the boy protested. "Mom, you're squeezing me." "Sorry, baby. It's just that I missed you so much. I missed you too." "And my ice cream?" We laughed. For the first time in weeks, we laughed heartily. That night, while Sammy slept and Sarah rested in her room, I sat in the living room with a cup of tea. I thought about everything that had happened, about the lies, the abuse, the pain. But I also thought about justice, about how the truth always finds a way to come to light. Greg and Barbara had played with fire, they had manipulated, they had lied, they had abused, and now they were paying the price. Not for revenge, for consequences, because every action has a consequence, and the universe always collects its debts. The 30 days the judge gave Greg and Barbara to vacate the house passed faster than I expected. During that time, Sarah began to be reborn. She enrolled in a refresher program for teachers. She started looking for work in private schools. She reconnected with friends she had lost during her marriage, and above all, she got her smile back. Sammy was happy. He didn't ask about his dad anymore. He had adapted to living with me. His room was full of toys. The garden was his kingdom. And every night before sleeping, he told me, "Grandma, I like living here with you." And my heart filled with light. On February 7th, day 29 of the deadline, Robert called me. "Diane, tomorrow the deadline expires. Do you want me to go with you to verify they have vacated?" Yes, I'm going to need witnesses. I'm bringing a sheriff's deputy. If they haven't left, we can proceed with forced eviction. The next day, February 8th, I drove toward the house. My house. Robert followed me in his car with the deputy. Sarah decided not to come. She didn't want to see that place again. Not yet. When we arrived, the first thing I noticed was the moving truck parked outside. The house door was open. 2 men were carrying boxes and furniture. I got out of the car, took a deep breath, and went in. The house was almost empty, the walls bare, the floor dirty. It smelled of dampness and neglect. Barbara was in the living room, supervising the movers. When she saw me, her face twisted into a grimace of hate. "Coming to gloat, are you? I'm coming to verify that you are complying with the judge's order. We are leaving. Happy? Where is Greg?" In his room, packing his things, I went up the stairs. My heart was beating fast. I didn't know what to expect. I found Greg in the master bedroom. He was putting clothes in a suitcase. He looked gaunt. He had lost weight. He had deep, dark circles, messy hair. When he saw me, he stopped. "Mrs. Miller, I don't want to hear your excuses, Greg. I just came to make sure you leave." He looked down. "I never wanted things to go this far." "But they did. Because of your decisions, because of your cowardice, for letting your mother control your life and destroy your marriage. I loved Sarah." I laughed. A dry laugh, without humor. "If that's how you love, I don't want to imagine how you hate. I made mistakes." "You didn't make mistakes. You made decisions. You decided to humiliate my daughter. You decided to isolate her. You decided to kick her out on the street with your son. Every single thing that happened was because you decided it." His eyes filled with tears. "What do you want me to do? I already lost everything. I lost my family. I lost my house. What more do you want? I don't want anything from you. Not anymore. I just want you to leave and leave my daughter alone." I left the bedroom. I went down the stairs. Barbara was signing some papers with the deputy. Robert signaled me. Everything was in order. They were complying. "Where are you going to go?" I asked Barbara. She looked at me with resentment. "That is not your problem." "You're right. It's not my problem. But I am curious. After living here for years as if it were your house, where are you going to live now?" "We are going to an apartment. Greg rented it." "The 2 of you together?" "Yes, the 2 of us together. Someone has to take care of my son." I smiled. "Your son is 36 years old, Barbara. He doesn't need you to take care of him. He needs you to let him grow up. You know nothing about us." "I know enough. I know you controlled him his whole life. I know you never let him be a man, and I know that's why he lost his family." Barbara clenched her fists. "Sarah was never enough for him." "No, you were never enough of a mother to let him live his own life." Her eyes filled with tears of rage. "Someday you will understand. When Sarah leaves you for another man, when Sammy grows up and doesn't need you anymore, you will understand what it is to be a mother." "I am already a mother, Barbara. And I know that being a mother means protecting your children, but it also means letting them go, letting them make their own decisions. Even if those decisions hurt you, you never learned that." Barbara grabbed her purse, walked toward the door, stopped, turned to look at me. "I hope this house makes you happy because you destroyed a family to get it back." "I didn't destroy anything. You took care of that all by yourselves." She left without saying more. The movers finished, closed the truck. Greg came down with his suitcases, got in his car. He didn't even look at me. And so, without ceremony, without drama, they left. Robert and the deputy checked the whole house, took photos, documented that they had vacated completely. "It's yours again, Diane," Robert told me. I walked through the empty house. Every room had memories. Memories of when Sarah arrived here with hope. Memories of when Sammy took his first steps in this living room. Memories of laughter that turned into tears. But now it was just a house. Walls, floors, ceilings. And I had to decide what to do with it. The following weeks, I cleaned the house from top to bottom, hired painters, changed the locks, repaired what was broken. The house looked pretty again, clean, bright. Sarah asked me one day, "What are you going to do with the house, Mom?" "I don't know yet. I could rent it. I could sell it. Or you could give it to me." I looked at her surprised. "Do you want to live there again?" She thought for a moment. "No, I don't want to return to that house. It has too many ghosts. But we could sell it, and with that money I could buy my own house, a house that is just mine, without bad memories, without shadows of the past." I smiled. "It seems perfect to me." I put the house up for sale in March. To my surprise, it sold in 2 weeks. A young family bought it, a couple with 2 little girls. They told me it was the house of their dreams. I gave them the keys and thought, "I hope you fill this house with love. I hope you never know the pain my daughter knew here." With the money from the sale, Sarah found a smaller but cozy house. 2 bedrooms, small garden, in a quiet subdivision near a school. "It is perfect, Mom," she told me when we went to see it. "Are you sure?" "Completely sure. Here I am going to start over. Sammy is going to grow up happy, and I am going to be free." She bought the house in April. The deed remained in her name, only in her name. The day she moved, I helped her unpack. Sammy ran everywhere exploring his new house. "Mom, look! My room has a big window. I can see the garden." Sarah hugged him. "Do you like your new house?" "I love it." That night, the 3 of us sat on the floor of the empty living room. We ate pizza straight from the box. We laughed. We planned how each room was going to look. And while I listened to them talk, I thought about Greg and Barbara. I wondered where they would be, how they would be living. Not out of morbid curiosity, but because I knew the universe always collects its debts. And they had a very big debt. The answer came in May, 3 months after the eviction. Patty, my HR friend, called me. "Diane, are you still interested in hearing about Greg? What happened? He got fired." I stayed silent. "Why?" "For absenteeism and poor performance. Apparently, since the legal problem with you started, his work went to the floor. He arrived late. He didn't meet his deadlines. He was distracted all the time. They gave him several warnings, and finally, 2 weeks ago, they fired him. And now what is he going to do?" "I don't know, but I heard he is living with his mother in a small apartment and that she supports him with her widow's pension." And a part of me felt pity, but only a very small part, because Greg had built his own prison, brick by brick, decision by decision. And now he was living in it. In June, Sarah got a job. A private school hired her as an elementary teacher. She was happy, excited. She was returning to who she was before meeting Greg. One afternoon, while we were drinking coffee in her new house, she told me something that surprised me. "You know what is the most ironic thing about all this, Mom?" "What?" "Greg always told me that I couldn't live without him, that I depended on him, that without him I was nothing. And it turns out he is the one who can't live without his mother. He is the one who lost his job, his house, his family, and I am better than ever." I smiled. "That is the sweetest justice. The one you don't have to seek, the one that arrives on its own." Sammy ran into the kitchen. "Mom, look what I drew at school." It was a drawing of a house with big windows, a garden, and 3 figures, a woman, a boy, and an older lady. "Who are they?" asked Sarah. "It's us, you, me, and Grandma." Sarah hugged him. "It is the most beautiful drawing I have seen in my life." And it was, because it was a drawing of a family, not perfect, but happy, free, at peace. That night, driving back to my house, I thought about everything that had happened in these months. I thought about the pain, the tears, the sleepless nights, the rage, the fear. But I also thought about the victory, the justice, the freedom, and I understood something deep. Karma is not revenge. Karma is consequence. Greg and Barbara didn't pay because I punished them. They paid because their own actions destroyed them. Lies are always discovered. Abuse is always paid for. Cruelty always returns. Not because God or the universe are cruel, but because life is fair, deeply fair. And sometimes the best revenge is to do nothing. It is simply to live well while they live with the consequences of their decisions. Almost 12 months have passed since that Saturday in the big box store parking lot. 12 months since I found my daughter sleeping in her car with my grandson. 12 months that changed our lives forever. Today is December again. The air smells of cider and Christmas cookies. The streets are full of Christmas lights. And I'm sitting in Sarah's living room, watching Sammy decorate the Christmas tree with that infinite energy only 6-year-olds have. "Grandma, does this light go here or there?" "Wherever you want, my love. It's your tree." Sarah comes out of the kitchen with a tray of freshly baked cookies. She looks radiant. Her hair shines. She has color in her cheeks. She has gained weight. She looks healthy. She looks happy. She sits next to me on the sofa. "What are you thinking about, Mom?" "About everything that happened this year." "Me too." We stay in silence for a moment. A comfortable silence, one of those that only exist between mothers and daughters who have fought battles together. "Do you know what day it is today?" Sarah asks me. December 21st. Exactly a year ago, I was preparing for the worst 2 weeks of my life. I still lived in that house. I still endured Barbara. I still believed I had no way out. And look where you are now, she smiles. In my own house, with my job, with my son, in peace. "Have you heard anything from Greg?" Sarah nods. "He calls me from time to talk to Sammy, but the boy hardly wants to talk to him anymore." "And the supervised visits?" "He only went to 2. The first 2 the judge ordered, then he stopped going. He always has excuses. That he is looking for work, that he doesn't have gas money, that he feels sick." "And the child support?" "He pays. Late, but he pays." I think his mother gives him the money, because according to Patty, he still hasn't found a job. I think about Greg, about the man I once thought would be a good husband for my daughter, about the man who turned out to be so weak he let his mother destroy his family. "Do you ever regret it?" I ask her. "Marrying him? Losing 5 years?" Sarah thinks about it, really thinks about it. At first, yes. I regretted it every day. I thought about everything I could have done differently, about all the signs I ignored, about all the time I lost. And now? Now I understand that those 5 years were necessary, because they taught me who I don't want to be. They taught me what I will never tolerate again, and above all, they gave me Sammy. We look at the boy. He is singing a carol while hanging a red ornament on the tree. "He was worth all the pain," says Sarah, "every tear, every humiliation, every night of fear. It was worth it because now I have my son. And I am free." I hug her. "I am proud of you." "Why? You were the one who fought for me. You were the one who saved me." "No, honey. I only helped you. You were the one who had the courage to testify in front of a judge. You were the one who got up after hitting rock bottom. You saved yourself." Tears run down her cheeks, but they are good tears, healing tears. "Thank you, Mom, for never stopping believing in me, even when I stopped believing in myself." Sammy runs toward us. "Mom, Grandma, the tree is ready. Are we going to put the presents?" "Not yet, my love. Presents are put out on Christmas Eve." "Is that long?" "Only 3 days. That is a long time." We laugh, and in that moment, in that shared laughter, I understand something profound. Happiness is not the absence of pain. Happiness is what you build after the pain. Sarah lost 5 years. She lost a marriage. She lost her confidence. She lost her job. But she won her freedom. She won her dignity. She won her son. And she won her future. And that is worth more than anything she lost. That night, after putting Sammy to bed, Sarah and I sit on her small back patio. The sky is full of stars. It is cold, but not too much. "Can I ask you something, Mom?" "Of course." "How did you know you had to fight? How did you know you shouldn't give up?" I think about her question. It is a good question. "Because you are my daughter, and mothers don't give up on their children. Never." But also because I saw in your eyes that day in the parking lot that you no longer had the strength to fight for yourself, so I had to fight for both of us. And if you had arrived a day later, a week later? I didn't arrive a day later. I arrived exactly when I had to arrive. The universe has its way of putting things in their place. Sarah looks at the stars. Sometimes I wonder if Greg is looking at these same stars, if he regrets it, if he understands everything he lost. I don't know. And honestly, it doesn't matter anymore. Why? Because what he feels or doesn't feel is no longer your problem. It is no longer your burden. You are already free, and that freedom doesn't depend on whether he regrets it or not. Do you think he is happy, living with his mother, without work, without family? I don't think so, but I don't think he is completely unhappy either. I think he is exactly where his decisions took him. And that is justice, not revenge. Justice. And Barbara? Barbara got what she always wanted. She has her son all to herself. She controls him completely. There is no longer any wife getting in the way. She should be happy, right? But she isn't. No, because controlling a life doesn't make you happy. It makes you a slave to your own need for control, and now she has to live with an adult son who depends on her for everything, who has no job, who has no future. That is her prison. Sarah smiles. You know, Mom, for a long time I wanted them to pay. I wanted revenge. I wanted them to suffer like I suffered. And now? Now I understand that I don't need to get revenge because they are already paying. Every day they live together in that apartment is a punishment. Every day Greg doesn't find work is a consequence. Every day Barbara has to support her 36-year-old son is a lesson. Exactly. That is the greatest wisdom you can reach, understanding that you don't need to be the instrument of justice. Life already is. We stay in silence, a silence full of peace, understanding, closure. After a while, Sarah speaks again. You know what surprises me most about all this? What? That I thought my life was ending when Greg kicked me out of that house. I thought I had lost everything, that I was never going to recover, and it turns out that was the best gift he could have given me. Why? Because he forced me to leave. He forced me to face the truth. He forced me to start over. If he hadn't kicked me out, I probably would still be there. Enduring, surviving, dying little by little. But you aren't there. No, I am here. In my house, with my son, with my job, with my life. And I am happy, Mom, truly happy. And that happiness doesn't depend on any man. It doesn't depend on any house. It depends only on me. I hug her, tight, like when she was a little girl and fell and I picked her up. That is my girl, my strong girl, my wise girl. We cry together, but not from sadness, from relief, from gratitude, from love. The next day, Sarah invites me to lunch. We go to a nice restaurant, one with white tablecloths and fresh flowers on the tables. While we wait for the food, Sarah takes an envelope out of her purse. I have something for you. What is it? Open it. I open the envelope. Inside is a check for $30,000. I am speechless. Sarah, what is this? It is part of the money from the sale of the other house. The house you bought for me. I want you to have it. No, honey, that money is yours. You need it for your new house. For Sammy. For your future. I already have my house. I already have my job. I already have my future secured. But you sold your dad's land to buy that house. You sacrificed your inheritance for me, and I want to return even a part of it. You don't have to return anything to me. It is not a return, Mom. It is a thank you for fighting for me, for saving me, for loving me even when I didn't love myself. Tears blur my vision. Sarah, please, Mom, accept it. It would make me very happy. I take the check. I look at it. And I understand that it isn't just money. It is a symbol that my daughter stood up, that she no longer depends on anyone, that she can take care of herself, and she can also take care of me. Thank you, honey, but only on one condition. Which one? That you use it for the vacation you need so much. Take Sammy to the beach. Rest. Enjoy, live, she smiles. Deal. We toast with our glasses of iced tea, to new beginnings, to second chances, to the love that saved us. Now, while I write this story in my mind, while I relive every moment, every tear, every victory, I understand that everything had to happen exactly as it happened, because if I had arrived a day earlier or a day later to the parking lot, maybe Sarah would still be trapped. If I hadn't kept all the house receipts, we wouldn't have been able to prove anything. If Robert hadn't been such a good lawyer, we would have lost. Every piece had to fall into place, and it did. Today, 12 months later, my daughter is free, my grandson is happy, and I can sleep in peace knowing I defended my family when they needed it most. What happened to Greg and Barbara? I don't know for certain, and I don't care anymore. I heard they are still living together, that he is still jobless, that she supports him, that they fight constantly. He once called me crazy. Barbara once told me I had destroyed a family. But years later, when I think of them, I only see two people trapped in the prison they built themselves. We close the book on this chapter not with vengeance, but with clarity. While this story borrows the shape of fiction, the bruises on the heart are things we see every day in the shadows of polite neighborhoods. It is a reminder that dignity is not negotiable and that a home is made of peace, not bricks. We walk away lighter, leaving the heavy baggage for those who chose to carry it.